Hi everyone, Kelvin here from London. Stereo Review X. I review all kinds of hi-fi equipment. I've been dabbling in hi-fi equipment a long time. And I'm going to review this really today, this classic vintage Pioneer receiver, SX550. And I put this in there too. This is a modern amp from 2010, just to do a comparison, and I'm going to tell you how this sounds also in comparison with high-end stuff, so you really get the picture of what vintage stuff, and that's a sort of a mainstay of the vintage world here, this Pioneer. But because I've had that much experience, truly I heard this amp when I was about 14 or 15, when I was at the sort of in a fanatical phase of hi-fi. I had this amp and I had the Sansui AU101, and I also had a JVC11. I mean, and I had friends of mine had other equipment, but I was very young and was very excited, and I did a lot of super detailed experimenting with sound, getting the Sansui, playing the same song, listening to the beginning of Money, Pink Floyd, yeah, that little bit where it sounds like change getting thrown into a till. That was the bit that me and my friend Chris would listen for precisely, We'd also listen to music too, but, it was fanatical. Anyway, so I'm going to review this. Let's do some technical stuff. This is from 1975, I think. Yes, 1975. 20 watts a channel. Yeah, modest 20 watts. But if you don't know, a vintage 20 watts can seem like a modern 40 watts. I mean, quite literally. I'm not making some poetic thing there. Often they do something with statistics, and when you get a vintage 20 or 30 watts, it sounds like a modern day 50 watts power wise. So okay, if you know anything about vintage hi-fi, Pioneer was a big name and still is a big name. I guess mostly because they look good. They have lots of buttons, right? You know what I mean? It's interesting that receivers are very popular when, let's face it, hardly anyone is listening to the radio. Well, I'm hardly ever listening to FM radio, but they look good and it all lights up. And Pioneer stuff looked good, and their amps look good too. They were always silver. They really, they look nice. They had solid build quality, and generally speaking, they're quite good over time. They have lasted. Not all makes last, and I'll do another thing on that. But yeah, this is kind of classic stuff. I would say that Pioneer have they have superseded the reality of their sound. What I mean by that is they are highly rated. If someone has a huge Pioneer receiver that's 125 watts or 150 watts or so, it's considered like a sort of holy grail of some kind. But I wouldn't put Pioneer at the top of the vintage sound. But look, let me go into some details about sound. Okay, let me talk about this one. So this is modern. I think this is a Class D. This is a thing where you just turn and turn this amp, this volume knob. I don't know why I think that makes it Class D, but I think it does. I honestly don't know. I care what it sounds like, Anyway, this is from 2010, Cambridge Audio AM10 TOPAZ AM10. It has a phono stage. It says phono there, so I'm presuming it has its own phono stage, which is quite a plus. I hope that doesn't mean just plug in your own phono stage. Basically nothing too remarkable about either of these amps. What have we got down here? Usual stuff. Two pairs of speakers on this Pioneer. Yeah, this has only got one pair of speakers. Mono. I love a mono button, you know, because I was playing with some speakers the other day. I was thinking, if one of these speakers has got less bass than the other, so you know, unplug them both in, press mono, and go right channel, left channel. As long as your amp's working good, they're getting the same signal. So literally, I put the two speakers right next to each other, facing the same way, just went left and right, and yeah, one of them was low, was down on the bass. So you know, that's sort of good for diagnosing things and stuff like that. Mono button. Loudness. People used to have the loudness on all the time. As a kid, we used to have the loudness on. Took me till I was about 25 to take the loudness off. It's not very impressive. But we were fanatical about sound, I promise you, or I certainly was. Anyway, okay. Let's do some songs. Let's do some. I won't do songs. I'll do music. I'll tell you what they sound like. That's what I'll do. I'll just tell you what they sound like. And as I say, I'm going to put this in the biggest picture I can related to other equipment. Yeah. So, this Pioneer Vintage Classic. It's a big sound. Yes. The first thing you get hold of is it's big and it's in the room. It's in the room with you. The bass is walloping you. It's a big, I would say, what would I say, like, it's robust, it's large, it's, okay, it's a little bit rough. It's a little bit rough. If you put really nice speakers onto this, you know, I mean, big, expensive, revealing speakers, anything that's really revealing, is not going to do the trick. In a way, you want this vintage amp with vintage speakers. They're kind of made for each other, you know. And I don't know what it was, but you know, when you get polite, modern, non-event speakers for like £300, you've got a non-event, and you've probably got a non-event with a bit of roughness in it, just a little bit. You know, I'm not. Don't get me wrong. When I say rough, because I'm such an insane fusspot, that probably barely registers to most people. But you know, it's a bit edgy, it's a bit jangly. It can get a bit much when the music actually gets very dense. Sometimes you sort of go, oh, you find yourself sort of backing off. You know, as I say, I am a fusspot. Let me read from my notes because this will probably do it better. Full bass, punchy, full everything. Bass enters the room. It's with you. Yeah, this is the joy of the vintage sound. It's with you. It's like a party member in the room. It's kick-ass. You know, it's there. It's a bit brash. It's not the last word in definition. But say if you have a nice female vocalist, you know, Joni Mitchell or someone like this, playing the guitar, singing, the voice will be big, it'll be pretty authentic, it'll feel pretty real, and there'll be quite a bit of space there, quite a bit of, I don't know, sort of echoey space, not dead space, just sort of live air. What else would I say? Oh, here's the thing. I played these with my Bowers & Wilkins DM4s, which are pretty classy speakers, and actually it didn't work out with this Pioneer because they were too crisp and revealing in the mid-range. Now let me say something, because I can see the comments now saying, oh, we've got to change the capacitors and all that stuff. Honest to God, this amp and the Sansui 101, which I listened to intensely as a teenager, the problems with them and the sound descriptions I'm making now with what they sound like today pretty much exactly the same as I would have said when I was 15. Yeah. And I'm not saying there hasn't been some degradation. There probably is. And there probably could be improved. But there's still they still sound a certain way, and it's the same. Yeah. They sound the same as they did, maybe a tiny bit rougher. Here's a funny thing that came to me when I was playing this. That I went up to it and I thought, I turned the bass and the treble right up. You know, this is what I would have done at certain points in time, you know, when I was young. And on this amp, turning the bass and treble up, probably equally, it sounds all right. It's not like, the point is, the joy of this is the robust, bouncy, liveness, attack. It's not the world of high-end Lin, quad, name, whatever you want to, you know, any super high-end. It's not like that. It gives you this in the room, big sound. Sometimes you could go from this amp, this Pioneer, to say a high-end stuff, quad, whatever it is, and really it'd be much more accurate, but it kind of be more refined. It kind of gets smaller, unless you've got 150 watts. If you go from this to the 50 watt name power amp that I have, it's more refined, but it ain't bigger. And that's 20 watts. It's just not bigger, you know? So I'm trying to give you the picture here. So there's fun. There's fun and involvement. Maybe it gets a bit wearing. You've got to, you know, I wouldn't have this. If you played this with, say, a cheap cassette deck that was, you know, some of those could be so bad, this would be no good. You know, we have the joy nowadays of streaming, which I've become mostly hooked on, or really good turntables, you know, but cheap CD player, anything cheap input, you know, you're just, it's got to have some good source, else it's going to go wrong. It's just not going to be able to deliver anything with anything getting slightly rough source wise. What else do I say? Okay, let's talk about this, because I haven't said a word about this. So literally I've been playing these two and comparing. Now, the first, okay, let me be, I'm going to have to be brutal here. The whole mid-band and top end, whilst being present and sort of fairly precise, probably more precise than this, it's just veiled. It just has a whole veil across the mid and the top end. It's so remarkable. I don't think, if I put you in this room and played this and this, as long as I had some nice source music, you just go, this one. That would be your very first thought. Because after 2 hours, you might get a bit worn out with that. But you'd be going, this one. It's bigger, it's clearer, it's just more there. It's just more to get involved in. This is the sort of amp. What can I say? I try not to be super rude about this amp, but it makes me ache a little bit. You know, it makes me go, it's just like not delivering, just not delivering. Well, so let me do some details. The bass is a bit of a one-note affair, yeah. Now here's another thought that crossed my mind when I played this, and it's sort of weird this, but I could imagine you walked into a showroom and they played this on some nice speakers, you know, and you may not realize in 10 minutes of listening how much air and life is missing from the mid and the top end, because you kind of are confronted with a lot of front end detail, cutting edge they call it, you know, but there's no space and there's no air. I say this because I could just imagine you could get fooled. You know, you could, I mean, I feel like I could be fooled in 5 minutes. You know, of just listening to that in a nice room in a shop. You know, but it's veiled. There is nothing to get involved in. You can't get properly involved in this. That's what I found. There just wasn't enough of anything. I couldn't groove with the bass. I couldn't get joy from the vocals, and I couldn't get sort of the magic of the space and the top end and the cymbals and the lovely space you can get, which funnily enough you do get with the Sansui 101 because it's very valvey. So have I done it? Have I given the whole context? You know, if you put on high-end stuff, you'd immediately know you have more detail and you have more lucidity in the bass. But you probably want to get to a good way up the scale before you categorically say, I like it better than this. Because there's some bouncy fun in this. It's alive. And that, you know, is dead, honestly. That's probably the best word. Yeah, okay. Let me just say, probably I'm going to review a modern amp. You know, one of these little thin amps, little small amps that I keep seeing in magazines I don't pay much attention to. So if you have a suggestion of what one I should get and review, let me know, because I feel like I should do something more recent, sometime soon. Have I done it all? Have I done it all? Yes. That's it. Okay. Thanks for watching. Loads more reviews on my channel. Thanks. Bye for now.